begin with a roll call, please.
Commencing roll call now. Vice Chair Blair Whitney,
Here.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado,
Here.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez, Councilmember Nick Searcy,
Here.
Councilmember Kathleen Daly. Here. Councilmember George Salmon,
Here.
Chair Brooks Esser.
Here.
Thank you. A brief announcement. We do have an interpreter joining us this evening. For those of you joining us in person, if you would like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, please use the headsets provided at the check-in table in the back. Francisco, would you like to provide these instructions in Spanish?
Ofrecerán las instrucciones en español y lo que se respecto a la Junta en español. Si ustedes tienen alguna forma de querer tener el programa en español, está listo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, public comment. Anyone may speak for up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda. If you're in the room, please fill out a speaker slip. Online attendees may use the raised hand feature of Zoom. Please note the council may not discuss or take action on items not on the agenda. Do we have any comment in the room this evening?
Yes, we do have a few speaker slips submitted.
Okay.
When I call your name, you may come up to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak. I'd like to call Michelle to the podium, followed by Caitlin.
I don't have to use a microphone, right? Okay. Okay, good evening, council members. My name is Michelle, and I'm here with my partner, Katie. I'm a senior high school student at Emil College program at Kenyatta College and have been involved with the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition, particularly the Redwood City area local team. We are passionate about making our community safer and more accessible for cyclists. Again, my name is Michelle and I grew up here in Redwood City and in North Fair Oaks areas. As a child, I grew up biking a ton with my entire family, so I'm pretty aware of these streets in both areas that need updated maintenance. We're part of an action group called Safe Streets, with the main purpose to raise awareness for safer streets and better communication between pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. In regards to infrastructure that makes it safer to bike in North Fair Oaks areas and in Redwood City areas, such as bike lanes, bike trails, and traffic calming measures. There are areas around these neighborhoods that do not have clear street signs or updated ones. And what we want is to promote safety measures around these areas, specifically targeting the streets surrounding what was once Fair Oaks Elementary School, now being the campus for multiple charter schools, Hampshire Avenue, Fair Oaks Avenue, Oakside Avenue, all lack bicycle line markers that declare the roads should be shared by cyclists and drivers. And my partner will follow up with the rest of them.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd like to call Caitlin.
Okay, to follow up with what Michelle said, overall, we wanted to make it a safer environment in specific areas for people to bike in and not worry about whether or not they're too close to a car. These line markings can help divide the space between cars and bicyclists so they both can get their share of the road. For example, one section when going through Middlefield Road to get through another road is near the Costco, Redwood City, as well as east from it since bike and car traffic is merged. It's also clear communication for all participants, including pedestrians, bikers, and drivers. We've seen other cities in our region implement these changes successfully. For instance, streets like Alameda de las Pulgas in Redwood City have bike lanes and are alongside schools, and this shows that creating safe infrastructure for cyclists is possible in our region. If they can do it, so can North Fair Oaks. We urge you to consider our proposal seriously and work with us to create a safer and more bike-friendly community for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers in the room this evening? Is there any online comment? Actually, that's what I had. Oh,
Through the chair.
go ahead.
Hi. This is Emma. And I was just listening to public comments. It's really hard to hear the locations of the speakers that they were referring to, so that I would just ask if the speakers can, I think Josh is in the back of the room, could share those locations with him. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Emma. Good. Pardon me? No other online comment? Okay. Agenda item number 3, the Economic and Employment Center, an introduction and updates. Presentation is going to be given by Job Train. I believe you're in the room. And the Renaissance Center after that.
With mics and some problems and hear folks speak. Good evening, members of the North Brooks Council. My name is Ruben Avalar, Senior Director of Career Center Services for Job Train. And with me this evening is Renata Sorbello, Employment Specialist for the North Brooks Economic and Employment Center. We want to share with you the work that we've been doing helping the community with employment services. Can you go to slide 2, please? But first, I'd like to give you some background information on Job Train and also some information on what was the genesis behind the Economic and Employment Center. Job Train has been around for over 65 years in the community. It is a nonprofit organization. We historically have offered low-cost career training in a variety of different industries and in high-demand fields. We also provide employment services, GED and HiSET opportunities for individuals to get their high school diploma, and supported services. We're also very proud of the fact that we are accredited through the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, WASC, and we're also accredited and acknowledged by the state of California through the Bureau of Private Post-Secondary Education. Next slide. So the genesis of the Economic and Employment Center. San Mateo County entrusted Job Train and Renaissance Entrepreneur Center to come together as a community benefit for North Fair Oaks community. The North Fair Oaks Economic and Employment Center started to come together as of January of this year. The Employment Center started providing direct client services in April of this year as well, so we're pretty relatively new. And I want to emphasize that we're only just beginning. So now I'm going to introduce you to some of the staff that we have. As I mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Career Center Operations for Job Train. And Esmeralda Celato is the Regional Director of South San Mateo County Career Centers. We have 3 career centers under the South County. We have North Fair Oaks, Menlo Park, and East Palo Alto. Next slide, please. Angela Hernandez is an employment specialist, and Renata Sorbello is an employment specialist and a supportive service specialist as well. Next slide, please. So fast forward 10 months later, we are making progress with promoting resources, providing employment services, as well as meeting with members of the North Fair Oaks community. This is a flyer that we put together promoting our our Economic and Employment Center here in North Fair Oaks. We offer a host of a variety of career development services, from resume development to job placement services to accessing to on-site technology printers and so much more. Our services are available in Spanish and in English. And the flyer also, I'm sorry you can't read it, but it also highlights our career training programs that we offer currently, as well as our other career center locations throughout the Bay Area. Next slide, please. So we don't actually have a building yet. We're operating out of our partner sites, currently Sequoia Adult School and North Brooks Community Center, both without hesitation to open their doors to provide us workspace, while San Mateo County finalized the purchase and renovation of the future site that will ultimately become the home of the Economic and Employment Center. And for those of you who don't know where that is, that's the building right down the street, down Littlefield. It's the old furniture store that the county acquired that will be our new center. It's modeled after the center we have in South San Francisco on Grant. There's a lot of foot traffic, it's a main thoroughway, And that center has been very successful as a result of its location, so we kind of wanted to have the same type of impact in the community, having a career center right there in the heart of the community. So the goal is to open in 2024. Next slide. We are very excited about having a permanent site in the heart of North Fair Oaks, a perfect location within walking distance for many residents to access needed employment services. Our vision is to have our service providers hold office hours there, as well as offer a variety of different workshops such as job fairs, presentations, and so much more. This flyer is an example of the type of workshops we plan to offer. Next slide, please. Last week, we had our first meet and greet. We invited different community members, local government, neighborhoods, community-based organizations to come and get to meet us, get to know what we're doing in the community, learn about what we're doing. But more importantly, what we want to do is to get to know each other. We plan to follow up with everybody who attended and did not attend, so we can begin to work together and help North Fair Oaks community help the members become employed and get better employment for themselves. And the last slide. We are really excited about this journey that we have embarked on, and we look forward to working together with all the key stakeholders to uplift the community. We still have a lot of work to do. We're just starting. Renaissance Center and Job Training, thank you. And we look forward to rolling up our sleeves and working together. And now I'm going to invite Renata to step forward and speak about her experience as an employment specialist working with the North Fair Oaks community.
Hi, everyone. So I'm here just to talk about my experience. So a couple of the challenges we have faced is primarily the population is monolingual or undocumented. And so what we have started to come up with is a resource guide is to help, address these problems. And on top of addressing a lot of these clients and sending them to CLESPA to get legal services or at least a consultation, we've also put together a guide for ESL classes on the peninsula from San Jose all the way up to San Francisco, where they can start to learn English or further their English education or in order to provide more career opportunities for them. We are providing, we're hosting workshops. The first ones are going to be in English next week, November 1st and 2nd. November 1st is going to be how to dress for success or how to promote your business online. And that's geared more towards people that maybe house cleaners or nannies that have promote on Nextdoor and Facebook and things like that. And then November 2nd is going to be how to dress for success, so we can get people, putting their best foot forward on job interviews, first day of on the job, things like that. I want to also share with you that we are sending a lot of our clients to check out the resources that the Institute for Families and Nannies offer. And they offer some training programs. The first couple of classes are free, and then they're starting to be paid after that. Our experience with that has been in North San Mateo County. We have one employment specialist, her name is Corinne, and she's working with a client right now to get through a couple of the classes and see how that works for her and to see if we want to continue a partnership with them. And then finally, I just want to close with some success stories. So our two most recent success stories have been a client who born and raised in Redwood City, and he had some troubles with the law and was formerly incarcerated, went through the getting his record cleaned, and he went through a training process for about a year to work at a warehouse, had been unemployed for 6 months, and he just started this week at UPS at $21 an hour. So we're really excited for him. And he was also formerly homeless and with a client at Maple Street. Our second client is actually also a North Fair Oaks born and raised. She was working at a nonprofit down in Palo Alto, and we were able to bring her back home, and she's starting at El Concilio in 2 weeks. So we're really excited about that. And I just want to close with saying we do have an open position for an employment specialist. So if you know anyone, we are hiring. Thank you.
We'd love to get somebody from North Fair Oaks to fill that position, that's for sure. Now, questions?
There are questions from council members. Ever, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your time coming to present. Nice seeing you again. Also, congratulations on your work. you mentioned that Job Train is working out of the Sequoia Adult School.
Yeah.
Is Renaissance there as well, or is just Job Train?
Yeah, Renaissance is working with other, I think, nonprofits to be able to provide direct services, workshops and all that, yeah.
Okay. The other question I had was about the location that you mentioned, where you potentially will be moving in at the furniture
The old furniture store.
location. So are they going to remodel that, or you're just gonna move in as is?
No, as far as I understand, the county plans to remodel the building as well, so that we have like a good feel as, cubicles, meeting rooms and so forth. So, yeah, the plan is to make it really nice and attractive.
But you're scheduled to move in next year sometime?
That's the goal. Warren Sloper spoke in on the presentation last week. He says before the year is out, but not maybe, he said he was kind of projecting summer at the latest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
George?
It was more of a comment. Just wanted to thank you guys for the good work you're doing. It's good to have this in the community.
Yeah, we enjoy working. Historically, we get a lot of clients that come to Job Train from East Palo Alto, Bellhaven, and North Oaks are the majority of the people who come take advantage of our training programs in Menlo Park. And now that we're here, it just makes it easier to come and take advantage of those resources. So thank you.
This is good. I'm looking at your training programs, and these are phenomenal. IT support, carpentry. Is there a plan to expand upon that when you're here?
Not right now. We have to see how things go. What we're seeing is that we get a lot of monolingual limited English speakers who want to take advantage of training programs. And the only one that we feel that they have a good chance of getting into is culinary, and then followed by carpentry. Those are the two. In healthcare, you need to have a good solid foundation with English. Yeah. And so we are encouraging the clients who come through here to take advantage of all the ESL programs to shore up their English skills so they can learn and be able to take these training programs later in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's great work. I have 4 former employees that went through Job Train at different stages in their life, and they're all doing amazing things now. So great program. What can we do to help you guys?
I want to meet all of you, and I want to share with you our vision and ask for your support and help us get out there and promote the programs. If you know a person personally that you think would be a good fit for an employment specialist, we'd love to meet them, talk to them, interview them for the position. But that's my goal, is to get someone from the community too, who has lived experience and knows what the challenges of the community faces.
Is there any chance Mountain View has a day workers program where, like, the day workers that are on 5th and El Camino, is there any way of filtering them into the construction programs? Or I know there's documentation and things like that, but is there, are there, I think, wasn't it New York City that did allowed some flexibility and documentation and brought
Well, the
community
big thing is more the language piece. That's the
language
challenge.
piece?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some programs out there that we're researching right now that combine vocational ESL with training. And
Okay.
they've been very, very successful across the country. The big one in Texas and one in Chicago. The one in Chicago is healthcare. And they teach people English is not their first language, how to become CNAs. And it's surprising, a lot of the CNAs end up wanting to become LVNs and RNs too down the road. So it is an opportunity for the gate to open for their careers. If they get the language down in the career, they can have greater success.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from council members? Why don't we go ahead and have the second presentation from Renaissance Center, and then we'll open it up to public comment after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone see my screen and hear me right?
Yes, I can hear you.
We're just here to pass out some flyers, some aids.
Thank you, Nora. Hello, everyone. I was unable to be in person, unfortunately, because I'm sick with COVID. So for your help, I'm going to be presenting remotely, but I hope in the future I can do this in person and meet every each of you guys. And apologies for my voice. So I'm going to be talking about Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center and the work that we have done so far at the North Roads community. Thank you for your time. Oh, I cannot. So I'm Teresa Perez. I'm the program manager. Beatriz Orozco is our program coordinator, who is a North Roads native. She is out of office today. And our most recently hired, Laura Rubio, program assistant. She is an East Palo Alto community leader, but also does good work at Redwood City. And she is assisting one of our evening courses today. But Nora is there. Thank you, Nora. Some of the items I'm gonna be talking today is a summary of Renaissance services, work overview of what we have done this year, client serve, I'm gonna be sharing a small client's video story, and outreach efforts and next steps. So what's Renaissance? The short version is to transform lives and communities by helping entrepreneurs start and grow their business since 1985. And how do we do this? We do this by providing workshops. And these workshops can be from helping you write your business plan to how to manage social media for your business. We also provide one-on-one consultation for clients who are navigating the entrepreneurial journey. It's very challenging. So we think that extra guidance, meeting with a business consultant, can help them take it step by step. We also do access to capital. This could be from applying to a grant to being loan ready. We are also a network small business community. This is where the first time where other businesses can access other businesses. Like we all know, any business owners, we all need services from other businesses. So it's a great way to meet any business in the community and help them as well. We also have a specialized training. One of those trainings we currently have is the BCERT program, which helps small businesses get certified as a minority or woman-owned business, and to help them get government contracts or corporation contracts in the San Mateo County. I believe one of our program specialists, he's stopping by tonight there, but he's running a little late. Jerry Mattis, I hope you guys get to meet him and he's able to share more of this information. He is leading that effort. I would also like to add that we host the SBDC, the San Mateo SBDC, and who does similar work that Renaissance, but helps businesses who are more established and help them for expansion. And many of our businesses have transitioned to the SBDC, and some of them, they're like, I want to open a second business. They come back to Renaissance. So it's a great partnership. And Nora Razon, who is our SBDC director, is there with you and share some of that information with you. Some of the work that we've done so far this year, an overview, we have conducted 4 workshops in person this summer at the Sequoia Adult School. Even though we don't host office hours there, we have done some of our workshops there. We also hosted 2 business planning sessions and 1 business startup training. One of the business planning sessions was hosted with the Generations United, and the business startup training was also hosted at the Sequoia Adult School, and some of those students are currently enrolled in the 2nd business planning class at this moment, almost done. We have served 21 North Roads residents and 69 residents from Mellon Park and Redwood City. 15 North Roads residents received technical training or 101, and 29 Redwood City residents received technical training. One Norfolk Oaks resident received a $5,000 grant, while 8 Redwood City residents received a total of $45,000 in seed grants. And we also helped develop 4 websites for Norfolk Oaks business owners. You will see that nearly of the 100 people that we serve, only 20% are from Norfolk Oaks, and we'll definitely love to increase that. I look forward to the community council learning more about Renaissance work and to collaborate and work together to help these business owners. The clients that we serve. The first quarter of our work, we served 49 clients, 75% were women, 78% were Hispanics or an immigrant background, 82% are extremely low to moderate income. This recent quarter, we served 41 clients and 57% were women, 95% Hispanic and immigrant backgrounds, and 100% are extremely low to moderate income. I also wanted to share with the council some of the pictures. I think I can talk about the work, but you know, pictures speak volume or more than a few words. And these are some of the classes that we have hosted. I believe some of them are from our first business planning class with Generations United, and other ones are from our previous recent work in hosting classes in Mellon Park. And I also want to share a short video of a story. We did a project in interviewing and talking to a few businesses in Norfolk Oaks that we have previously worked with. And this is Hilaria Castro from Kelly Paleteria. And I'm going to play it. I hope you guys can hear it. Please let me know.
You can't hear Teresa.
Share sound.
Teresa, we can't really hear.
You guys cannot hear? You guys want me to put, but can you guys hear a little bit?
No.
No.
No? Oh, that's so sad.
When you play, you have to share the sound, I believe.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
You might have to reshare your screen and then click the share sound button.
You think there's a choice under the menu icon?
I don't know.
If it has captions, we can read.
Yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you. Sorry.
No worries.
I can play it here. I've got it on my.
Is that okay? Sorry, did someone say something?
I can play it on mine with sound if you want, but if you start from the very beginning, so we can sync up.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay. Ready.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Preparamos jugos, pastilojos, chicharrones preparados, fruta picada, cócteles de frutas también. Vendemos nieves, paletas y más cosas así de productos mexicanos. Tratamos de darle el mejor servicio. Principalmente yo estoy aquí, trato de estar aquí todo el tiempo para atenderlos mucho mejor y pues ayudarlos. A mi esposo y yo empezamos bueno, antes ya habíamos empezado a vender en casa, a preparar los jugos y todo, pero después las personas nos preguntaban, ¿dónde estás ubicado para irnos a tomar un jugo ahí? Y pues tuve que buscar un lugar y estamos aquí desde el 1 de diciembre de 2018. Lo que es cuando empieza uno, pues que no hay muchas ventas, no somos conocidos todavía y pues tenemos que darnos a conocer. Pero ahí fuimos poco a poco, pues y aquí estamos. Pues empezamos a hacer flyers, repartir a la comunidad y así nos fuimos dando a conocer con las amistades, amigos, decir que nos visitaran aquí y que aquí los podemos atender y pues aquí estamos. Igual atendiéndolos y pues ya un poquito más, con más tiempo, pues ya nos dimos a conocer. Pues mucho. Primero, pues Carlina Almos me ayudó mucho en cómo me explicó cómo sobrellevar un negocio, porque yo no sabía nada de esto. Y aparte, pues me ayudaron para lo de la renta, la ayuda que estuvieron dando por ahora del COVID. Y pues mucha ayuda en verdad. Pero es de estar aquí todo el tiempo para darle mejor servicio a los clientes, pero todo bien, gracias a Dios, y con la ayuda que nos han brindado la comunidad, todo bien.
What time do they close tonight?
Thank you so much. Let me see. And so currently some of the outreach that we've been doing, like I mentioned before, we would definitely love to increase the number in helping more North Roads residents and businesses. So we started to host in-person office hours. So we're hosting this the first and third Wednesday of the month from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Brew House Coffee. Amazing space. And we invite owners not only for a cup of coffee, but also to learn more about, for us to learn more about their challenges and for them to learn about the services that we can provide to help with those challenges, including upcoming workshops, or if they need any specific technical training, like 101s, who to connect them with or what service. And some of the next steps, we will definitely see in Renaissance. We have many offices around the Bay Area, but we tailor our services depending on the community. And we want to offer more support to the businesses that are already established, thinking about different courses like HR Essentials, administration and talent acquisition, business insurance, and pricing for services or products. We also are looking to evaluate our services, follow up with them after each workshop or one-on-one consultations and see how we can support them even more, and also track their progress and track our programs impact as well. And hopefully with the help of SBDC, we can partner with them as well to help the established communities. I know some businesses been there for over 10 years. And thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Any questions from council members for Teresa? Go, George.
Hi, Teresa. Thanks for the presentation. I love to see things that help out the small business, especially. Few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your main funding source coming from? Is it mostly from donations? Is it from paid services? How are you mostly funded to help these people out, help the community out?
I believe we get our funding from different sources, government funding and also private funding. But if I'm not mistaken, for North Roads, I believe it's TAP funding to help for the services.
What assistance are you looking for from us? How can we help?
So definitely, no one better than the community council knows the unique challenges of the community, and especially for business owners. So I'm looking for collaborate with you guys and trust for the community to trust, Renaissance, to come in and be able to help them with their business. Each business is going to have a different challenge and very unique. And we want to, we are able to help them, and we want them to know that we're here to help them. So definitely you guys being that outspoken person, but also speaking of the work, and we're always happy to meet with you guys and talk about what we're doing, what we've been doing. And if you guys want to come to the office hours too, come enjoy coffee and learn. My team is there, and sometimes I'm there too.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Everett, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions. First one is, are you a nonprofit? Is Renaissance a nonprofit?
That's right. We're a nonprofit. We do not charge for our services.
Okay, so there are no fees associated for the people who get the help and the classes and everything?
Correct.
Great. The other question that I had was in terms of location. Do you also have an office nearby, or where is the closest location that you have?
That's a great question. Our closest office is currently in East Palo Alto Bay Road. We also, help the East Palo Alto community, Melon Park, Redwood City, and North Oaks. But we wanted to have more presence in North Oaks. That's why we'll be hosting the office hours and waiting for the location to be open.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Please.
Hi, we've met before. It's Kathleen. Good to see you
Hi,
again.
Kathleen. Good to see you again.
Couple things. Wanted to give a shout out to someone in the room who I think can help. And we talked a little bit about this. Someone who's gone door to door, as you know, with the small business grants that were given to these businesses. I know as a former small business owner, when people walk in and you don't know them, and they're going to offer you something, and you're trying to run your business and do all your stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. But I think if, because he did a great job handing out those grant checks, Josh from the Office of Community Affairs would be an excellent person, because he has that one-on-one communication and contact with these business owners. I remember meeting them when we sat down with the grant program. One of the challenges were where we were trying to ask people what their financial situation looked like, and you kind of watch them go, oh, we're not talking about that. So to be a little shy of wanting the services, but between that and also we do have access to an email list of all the business owners through that program. And Mariella from Cuco's Burritos has that information, all the names, email addresses, and I believe phone numbers as well. So that is something we could do to help you get in front of those businesses sooner and get started, because it's a great service and great work. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. We will definitely follow up with that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for leveraging OCA and that, Kathleen. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Any other questions from council members? Okay, we can move on to public comment, both Job Train as well as the Renaissance Center, if there is any public comment. Okay, well, thank you all very much for your presentations tonight, your contributions to the community, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Agenda item number 4, City of Redwood City's residential parking permit program. Parking is obviously an issue we have discussed as a council in the past. Given the activity on Middlefield Road and its impacts on parking, in fact, quite honestly, that project is nearing its completion. It appears to me to be a good time to start taking a look at potential solutions around parking, particularly in our neighborhoods that are impacted by the commercial area. So I thought it'd be interesting if we look to our neighbors to the north up in Redwood City, who have implemented a residential parking permit program, and get a little understanding of kind of what they did, how it works, what it costs, enforcement issues, things like that. So with that, we have Christian Hammock of Redwood City here today, who's the program manager for the Redwood City Residential Parking Permit Program, to talk about what they do and how it's helped solve their problem. Floor is yours, Christian.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, council members. Good evening.
On the bottom. No worries.
You have to hold it for just a second.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
No, I think you're done.
Hello?
There it goes. Is that it? No.
Hello?
There we go.
Got it. All right. Good evening, council members. I'm Christian Hammock. I'm Redwood City's Parking and Transportation Demand Manager. Thank you for having me tonight to kind of discuss with you Redwood City's parking permit program and kind of let you know our experiences with the program that we've implemented in Redwood City. That next slide. So do a quick presentation and then we can have any kind of questions and answers. So I'll kind of give you an idea on kind of the state of parking in Redwood City, kind of where we're at and what we're experiencing. Go into a little background of our parking permit program, talk about some of the individual program details, and then some considerations that you may want to, that the public and you should consider when looking at implementing a program. And then we'll have some time for questions. Next slide. So currently Redwood City, like many jurisdictions in the Bay Area, experience parking issues. It's not uncommon for any jurisdiction to have parking issues. Some of the major issues that we're experiencing is in driveway areas. So we have a lot of added excessive curb cuts, so extra wide curb cuts, where curb cuts where no longer there's an actual garage or anything leading to it. So, or people are looking for extra on-site concrete space. People looking for parking for RVs and boats and other kind of larger kind of vehicles. Abandoned vehicles, there's always an issue with trying to deal with that. Commercial vehicles, whether it's spillover from a commercial area that's near a neighborhood or an individual people's personal commercial vehicles like a work truck or other vehicles like that. And trying to handle street sweeping and kind of maintaining the cleanliness of the areas, and then kind of curb management with colored curbs and reds and loading zones and other things like that. Next slide. So just to give you an idea on the number of kind of complaints that we deal with annually, Redwood City Police Department gets approximately 6,000 complaints. These numbers are a little a few years old, but they're the ones I have right now. So they get about 6,000 complaints per year regarding parking issues. Public Works Department gets actually 9,000. That's through our application, our online mobile application that people can submit complaints about. And then this kind of gives you a heat map of Redwood City showing the areas of where the highest amount of issues are kind of flagged. So a lot of that is, you can kind of see Friendly Acres in the upper right-hand corner is one of the hot areas. Then kind of Redwood Avenue, kind of near between Woodside Road and Jefferson, kind of is the other area where we have kind of predominant a lot of parking issues currently. So next slide. So Redwood City's parking program. We've had permit parking since 1985. That's when the first permit program was adopted. Essentially, right around that time, we adopted two zones in Redwood City. The first was around Sequoia Hospital. And so that was to handle the spillover from the hospital parking. So a lot of doctors and nurses and other staff that were parking in the neighborhood. So that was originally when the hospital, the parking on site wasn't enough to accommodate the staff and all the visitors. So it was spilling over into the neighborhoods. And that was one of the first ones that we adopted. Second one we adopted was around Sequoia High School, and dealing with student parking in the neighborhood and spillover parking from school activities, especially because around Sequoia High School, there's about, I think it's 6 or 7 middle schools also right around that same area. So there's a lot of school traffic, a lot of parking issues that are created because of all the schools in the area. And so that was the second area we adopted. Then in kind of around 2015, we adopted our third area. So those first two were adopted in 1980s, second half of 1980s. We didn't adopt a new program until about 2015 or so, 2014. And that was the area around Stambaugh and Heller. It's kind of just on the outskirts of the downtown area. And so that was to deal with spillover that we were experiencing with the growth in downtown of all the office buildings and seeing a lot of employees of the downtown starting to move, trying to spill over into the neighborhood. So working with the residents and the neighborhood associations, we ended up adopting a permit program in that area, that neighborhood that's right on the edge of the downtown. And then most recently, I think it was around end of 2018, we adopted a permit program for Friendly Acres, kind of in the area between 2nd Avenue and 5th Avenue, between Bay and Rolliston. And so kind of that initial area, kind of right on the south end of the Stanford campus, Stanford Redwood City campus, and kind of between the commercial area on Bay Road. So they were experiencing a little bit different. There was some commercial kind of spillover that was happening. Some of it was due to construction of the Stanford campus at the time. But they were also dealing with a lot of internal issues with property owners that had a lot of vehicles, other vehicles from other areas. People were coming in, dropping off cars, and then getting picked up and moving out. So it seemed like a lot of on-site storage that was taking place in the area that wasn't necessarily commercial related or not within the neighborhood vehicles. So that was kind of the impetus for that program. Sorry, go back real quick. Sorry. So I get to. Oh, and so just to kind of understand, the reason that we were looking at implementing this is, again, to kind of reduce congestion. Obviously, for homeowners, if you have to circle around the area, that's creating more congestion and air pollution in the area. Also, we wanted to make sure that kind of increase the turnover of the parking in the area so that we aren't looking to kind of have the parking always be open, but we want to have kind of a flow of the parking opening up on a regular basis so that the parking spaces would be available. And then also looking at seeing that some of the abandoned vehicles and other activities that were taking place in some of the neighborhoods, it leads to some other safety issues also and safety concerns. So part of the reasons why we adopted the permit program. Okay, next slide. So this is just a quick map showing the four areas that I just briefly described to you. So you have the Friendly Acres kind of up in the right-hand side, the Stambaugh Heller kind of the next to the left, the Sequoia High School to the left of that, and then the Sequoia Hospital to the left of that. So kind of a cross-section of the city. Next slide. So just to kind of give you some details for our program, when the program was adopted, it was essentially adopted to deal with a lot of the spillover traffic that we were experiencing. So like I said, the first two programs were kind of spillover traffic, one for the hospital, one from the high school area. And so the permit program was adopted to run kind of Monday through Friday from about 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. so that we put the restriction after 6 p.m. the streets open parking. So to let residents park when they're home from work and the other activities. So you don't quite need the turnover. We do have the understanding that they are public streets, and that's why all our permit parking areas do still allow public parking. We just limit it to 2-hour time period. So it's 2-hour restrictions rather than just no parking at all for anybody that's not permitted. The permits allow the residents to park beyond the 2-hour limit. So if a resident's parking on the street, they could park all 8 hours during the day or however long they want. They're exempt from the 2-hour restrictions. The 2-hour restrictions just allows general public, gardeners, and other kind of vehicles that are coming in the neighborhood to be able to park and do business if they're working in one of the homes in the area. We do, basically, we limit, in our program, we limit the permits per address to three permits, per household. And then we provide guest passes, 8 guest passes, 1-day guest passes per year, and then 2 14-day guest passes. We added the 14-day because there's often people have family members that come over for extended period, or children come home from for the holidays or something like that. We were trying to accommodate some of those considerations, should they need to park in the neighborhood. And then for kind of implementing the program, we do require a significant amount of support. That's one thing to make sure is if you're looking at implementing a program that there's wide support for it. Otherwise, you're not going to get good compliance of the people using the permits, and you're going to get a lot of pushback. So to just start the process to evaluate it, we require a petition with 50% of the at least 50% of the addresses in the area we're looking to consider. And then we require, once we get that, then we'll do kind of a parking study of the area and kind of look at the occupancies of the parking on the street. And so we require to have an average occupancy of around 80% to be able to move forward with the program. And then following that, it mixed into this where we'd have a lot of outreach with the neighborhoods, doing the neighborhood meetings and other discussions with them. But we would have a survey that we would send out to the residents and have them answer questions. And we would basically be looking at to have super majority in support of the program. And of that survey, we require at least 25% response rate and have that of that 25%, that 67% is in support of the program to kind of be able to recommend a program to move forward. And then just going in some of the considerations that you should think about when evaluating a program. Again, is there wide support for it? It really depends on if there's really strong support for putting a program in. What kind of impacts is the neighborhood experiencing? Are these impacts because of a commercial area that are nearby, or is it impacts because some residents in the neighborhood have many multiples of cars that they're parking on the street? So is it internally caused impacts, or is it exterior impacts that are impacting the area? What kind of hours and days do you want to have for the restrictions? Do you want this just to be kind of a work week kind of restrictions, or do you want something that extends further in the evenings or on weekends? That's something to also have in mind. One thing to also think about is that while you may be solving some of the issues with the permit program, you could be also creating some other issues also with the program to consider how it'll impact people that do own multiple vehicles, residents that have multiple families living in single family homes, people that have home-based businesses, people that have converted their garages to like an ADU or something else. So those are considerations that you need to think about when kind of adopting the program and how you will allocate permits for some of those type of properties. And then and what kind of probably the biggest issue is how do you want to enforce it, and what kind of expectations do you have for enforcement? You can't. It's hard to implement a program letting the residents think that this is going to be a silver bullet to solve all the parking issues, and then not have the enforcement to support the program in an adequate way. The minute people realize that there's not significant regular enforcement, if they're going to fall back into their bad behaviors, and you'll have vehicles parked all over the neighborhood again. And so you need to partner with whoever's going to be providing the enforcement, with the sheriff's office or whoever, and get their buy-in also. And then I guess one other item that you should consider is there willingness to pay for the permits? That's one of the things that we've tackled in the city. We don't charge currently for our permits, where we looked at it, but council hasn't been comfortable moving forward with a fee for the permits at this time. But one of the things we're experiencing is limitations in our enforcement ability for our permit programs. And so to be able to support that enforcement level that I think a lot of our permit areas would like, we really need some additional revenue to get the parking officers that could support it. So that's something to also consider in the discussion with potential residents of a potential area on if that's something that could be supported. And then with that, for more information, you can go to Redwood City's website, at basically redwoodcity.org/residential permit parking or residential parking permits. And we have a FAQ and a bunch of other information about our programs. So with that, I'll open up if there are any questions.
Any questions from council members? I imagine we'll have a few. George, go ahead.
I've got several. Thank
Okay,
you for presenting.
please.
These open up my eyes quite a bit to what we should be looking at. But I have several questions.
Go ahead.
You mentioned there was an uptick. It was roughly 6,000 to 9,000 calls you got for parking-related issues.
It's about 15,000 combined between the two. Yes.
Since you implemented the program in 2015 and 2018, expanded upon the regions, has there been additional calls since the plan was implemented?
I would say over the period we saw a steady increase of calls between 2012 through 2019. Obviously, with the pandemic, things dropped way off. People were kind of more worried about other stuff, and the amount of calls and complaints about parking fell to the wayside of it.
How much additional staff did you have to hire to run this program? How much additional budget do you need?
So basically, we had I'm trying to think when they adopted it. I want to say a few years ago, we had about 2 parking enforcement officers that covered downtown issues, enforcement of the parking meters, and would also go out on calls. Additionally, sometimes they had patrol officers go out into the neighborhoods for the permit parking at that time. Around, I think it was maybe 2018, about that time, 2019, that they approved the hiring 2 additional parking enforcement officers. So the way they're allocated is right now is two parking enforcement officers for internally in the downtown, kind of covering downtown parking issues, the meters, any kind of loading zones and things like that. And then 2 to kind of deal with the parking issues outside of the downtown. So that's the permit parking, other like abandoned vehicle calls, other issues such as that. But those 2 cover all of Redwood City, not just the permit parking areas.
How much more budget did you have to increase to run this program?
I believe.
It's okay if you don't know the number.
I don't know it off the top of my head. I want to say the estimate was about, I want to say 150,000 per parking officer.
Now, you mentioned 3 vehicles per household. Is this purely per household? Is there a bedroom? Does it matter what size the house is?
Yes, so that's a good question. So until I think with 2019, it was the 3 permits were per address. So if somebody had a ADU that had a separate address, we would issue 3 permits for that. It also for multi-unit dwellings that happen to be in the areas, each unit technically would get up to 3 permits. We've since kind of provided some flexibility in our program to allow us to adjust the amount of permits. We haven't yet, so everybody still can get up to 3 permits. But one of the things that some of the neighborhoods expressed some concerns about multi-unit dwellings getting the same amount of permits. So if you have 20 units, that's lots of permits going out, and there's 60 permits for one building. So we've created a program that, or we've put flexibility in the program so that we could we would set the amount of permits and the days and hours by resolution. So at the time of adoption. So whether it's for single family homes, it's 3 permits. For multi-unit dwellings, each unit gets maybe 2 permits or 1 permit or something like that. But we kind of work that out with the neighborhood. And that's something we negotiate. It's a discussion point that we work through the neighborhood and try to find a happy medium.
Okay. How do you handle short-term Airbnb rentals and medium-term rentals if you're limited on parking? And we do have some, we've got traveling nurses that come into some of these units and stay for a month or 2 at a time. How are they issued parking permits?
Yeah, so we've had some of those situations where like someone's renting out the house or something for a certain period of time. We typically, a property owner, if they're not living there, they generally aren't pulling the permits. They allocate the permits to their renters or their leasers. And then what they typically would do is let us know when that person's left and we invalidate that permit. And so just because you can, I guess for the 3 permits, it's three out at a time. So it's not generally not necessarily 3 per year. So,
Okay, that's good.
so if somebody's there for 3 months and then they leave, then somebody new could come and get a permit.
Okay.
Since we invalidate that old permit.
Sort of, how long does it take typically for permits to get issued? Turnaround time?
Yeah, so, and that was the other thing I forgot to mention is that we also require people to renew their permits annually. That way we can kind of make sure when people move out, that we're kind of keeping the system fresh and getting things. So we also, right now, we just have physical permits that we put on the vehicles, the people with stickers that people essentially either put on their dash or run a window or something like that. And so, and we issue those over the counter at our revenue services counter. And typically people, we have an online application form so people can fill that out. We'll review those applications and then they either can pick them up at City Hall or we'll mail them out. Or if they come over to the counter, we can issue them at the counter also. So it's typically pretty quick. We do require kind of proof of residency. So whether that's a utility bill or some form or your registration showing your address, showing that you live in the permit area, and that kind of thing. And then they have to have a valid registration.
Okay. And
Also we don't issue a permit for any vehicles that are registered commercial.
okay, that answers my other question. Because we do have quite a bit of commercial vehicles. All right, well then. You mentioned to get the program running, you had to have an average occupancy of 80%.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So again, I mean, that's kind of the terms that we kind of use. So what we'll look at is on a typical day, kind of between looking at the hours that we're looking to enforce, maybe we'll take like a 4-hour window or something like that and kind of see if the occupancy is, if it stays at 80% or above an average. So we kind of look at how many cars are parked, how many parking spaces are available, how many cars are parked on the street at a given time. So we'll have somebody kind of come out maybe once an hour for like a 4-hour period. And then we'll average what we see as far as the amount of vehicles parked in the given area.
You mentioned the enforcement hours, they're typically during the day, not at night.
For our program, that's how we've done it. And like a lot of that typically has been because a lot of the impacts have been from kind of commercial areas nearby. So it's a lot of the impacts were that kind of Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. time frame where cars were coming into the neighborhoods and infecting the residents' ability to park.
That's good to know. Thank you. That's all I have for today. We'll open up so that other people.
Questions?
What?
Sorry.
Questions from other council members? Juan Carlos, go ahead.
Yeah. As you alluded to earlier, there's a lot of areas that are spillover from commercial, especially in the areas where we have blocks that are half the block is Redwood City and half the block is North Fair Oaks County. Particularly a troublesome area, Spring Street.
Yes.
Which you know is kind of the border there in a lot of different blocks. There's one trouble block there between, well, right in front of the AT&T tower, which is a big hub for abandoned vehicles. A lot of people living in their vehicles. So those blocks there between Second Avenue and Fifth Avenue on Spring is an ongoing issue there. Are you planning on doing permits in areas like that?
I think we would not put permits, or typically we would not put permits along commercial street frontages. So if I think there's maybe some residential in that area. We don't have any plans, right up front, we don't have any plans to put any permit parking in that area at this time. But typically, like along commercial areas, we would not be looking at permit parking. We have adopted an ordinance that allows us to do kind of business permit parking, kind of the twin of this residential permit, but more geared towards businesses. It's structured a little bit differently. But again, there would have to be interest from the businesses to look at adopting some kind of restrictions on the street before we would look at implementing that.
Is that different? I guess I make a distinction between industrial area and commercial, meaning there's no in and out, there's no commerce, people from off the street.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think right now, the way we have it structured is industrial and commercial are gonna be grouped together. Even though it's not as frequently in and out, as just like a retail business.
Okay, thanks.
Now, if there's certain areas where we're seeing excessive issues, we probably wouldn't put a permit area there, but we maybe would look at putting some time restrictions, maybe limiting it to 2 hours or 4 hours or something like that. And if there's specific areas where you're seeing issues, you can welcome to take the information and we can look at it and we can see if that's something that we want to look at implementing in that area.
Ever, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your time and for preparing the presentation. Excellent. Appreciate your time. Right along what Carlos was asking, what about large vehicles, like large trucks? Does Redwood City have any policy, like, pertaining to size of vehicles that park in either light industrial or commercial zoning that are not supposed to be there?
Again, I would say we do have like a size criteria that does establish what we consider commercial vehicles. It is rather large, so a lot of the smaller are not truck, and it's normal kind of like a bigger work truck is probably not going to be considered commercial unless it's licensed as a commercial vehicle. But some of the smaller kind of box trucks or vans like that may still not be classified as a commercial vehicle under our ordinance. I know PD had to, they redid our kind of commercial vehicle ordinance a few years back, but I do know it's a rather large vehicle that it would take to kind of actually hit that threshold.
The other question, I was curious about the map that you showed. It was for the areas with parking issues. How did you generate that, or was that just estimated by the data based on the complaints, or?
Yeah. So you're talking about the heat map?
Yeah.
That kind of showed the red and the colors. Yeah. So that's basically kind of mapping out where all the complaints were generated or were generally coming from. So we kind of looked at the quantities of each area and kind of established kind of a heat threshold, a color threshold for the areas with the highest density of issues.
Yeah. And so I noticed that one of the areas, the bordering with North Fair Oaks is Friendly Acres.
Correct.
And I'm curious, if you have a sense of the before and after, the parking program and, sort of the rate of happiness from those residents there.
I will say, unfortunately, things have gotten skewed a little bit since the pandemic and a lot of people being confined home, and we've kind of relaxed some enforcement here and there, and our PD right now is understaffed, so right now, two of the enforcement officers are it's not filled at the moment. And so enforcement right now is not as good as we'd hope, but prior to some of these issues we're experiencing, the neighborhood was pretty happy with the implementation of the program. I think for the most part, when you drove through prior to it being installed, you go down and almost every parking spot on the street was occupied. Maybe a few scattered here and there throughout the area that were open. Now, following that, you definitely see a lot more vacancy opening up. So you can go drive through the area and typically you can find a parking spot these days.
Thank you. I think that's great because, again, it's an area where the demographics are very similar to North Fair Oaks, where you have, some gardeners who have working trucks and, multi-families living in one unit or something like that.
And I'll add that also Friendly Acres is probably the one area where we've heard the most about potentially expanding the restrictions to go more further into the evening hours and also on the weekends. So we just did a survey and we're still kind of tabulating the results to see if there's interest in actually modifying the times. We should have that kind of evaluated over the next month next month. But that is one of the issues, the one things that we've heard from the neighborhood is actually an interest to increase the restrictions.
Just one last question. I'm curious about the cost. I know you alluded a little bit when George asked one question, but I'm curious about if what was the cost of implementation for the program and also sort of a ballpark cost for running it once it's implemented.
Sure. So the kind of upfront costs are, it depends. It varies greatly depending on the size of the area and how many. Because basically you're gonna have to install signs, and so a lot of the times that means also installing signposts. And so each sign that you're looking at installing is going to be probably in the ballpark of $600 to $800. That's the post and the sign. Maybe even up to 1,000. I would get these days, given increases in costs. So it could be a lot. Now, if you're doing a large area, you probably get a reduction in price, and that could drop down some. So it really fluctuate depending on the scope of the area. With regards to the actual administration of the program, as I mentioned, we have the revenue services kind of helps issue the permits. I think right now we allocate, I think it's one FTE. I think it's one FTE, or maybe I think it's 0.5 of one of our revenue service technicians, and then 0.5 of the manager's FTE that they allocate towards it. So that's I can't give you the cost on that at the moment. But the actual permits themselves typically we issue, I think, generally around 1,000 to 1,200 permits per year. And the cost of those permits run us maybe $1,500 or so, $2,000. And then it's basically staff time kind of processing the applications and issuing them.
And that's the revenue services role?
Revenue services, yes.
Thank you.
I will say that we did originally that was all done over the counter at Revenue Services, but we did implement an online application, and so I think we pay it's kind of a joint fee for the company that developed manages the online application. But I think we pay maybe $5,000 to $8,000 per year for that service.
Do you still have half a person of revenue services allocated to that, or is that 5,000 to 8,000 kind of?
We still have
Still have a head count?
Yeah, because they still have to be able to process the stuff over the counters, and the revenue service staff still kind of fill out the permits. If you look at, I don't know if you can slide back to kind of maybe the first slide. Oh, sorry, go back there. So as you can see, these are kind of examples of some of the permits that we kind of have. They're basically just laminated stickers. We started, kind of hard to see on here because maybe actually go down the slide. One more, or keep going down. Sorry. Oh, that one. So you can kind of see, we kind of have printed on the date that it expires. So January 2024. And then revenue services basically fills out the license plate information and the permit number on the permits. And that's after reviewing the applications and confirming the vehicle. And so we do issue the permits specific to specific vehicles. So that way, I mean, you're not handing it off to different vehicles. And then the enforcement should be checking, and they're not going to check every one, but they will periodically check to make sure the tax match up. Thank you.
Niket, go ahead, please.
Sorry, so wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the school area and kind of what you were looking at there, because one issue we have, I really like having the adult school. It provides a lot of opportunities. However, they have not provided parking. And so typically when they run their classes, it's not just spillover, it's like an explosion in our neighborhood with that. And so one of the things at least I'd be interested in looking at is how do we limit that sort of thing? And so maybe it kind of relates to your school. I don't know if that's similar problems or.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I think for the school situation, I think what helped with that is the fact that we limited to 2 hours. So someone could, if they're just stopping and gonna be picking up something at the school or doing other activities quick, or need to drop off their kid at one of the elementary schools, they could walk them in and have time for that. And so we're trying to accommodate some of those activities, but it's not long enough that the high school students are going to be parked there all day while they're in class. And we kind of limit some of those longer term things, because the real point of the program is to create that turnover. So as long as vehicles are moving every 2 hours, I mean, we expect that vehicles that aren't residents are going to be parking in the neighborhoods. We just want to make sure that they're not just monopolizing the street and park there for days on end, or sometimes some of them weeks or months on end, because they've just left them behind or using the streets as storage.
I guess for us, then it's a little bit of a different issue in that area because it is a night school. So it's generally about 2 hours. Right at the time when everybody's coming home, they've already taken up all the spots in the area. So.
Yeah, so I mean, you could look at putting a smaller restriction, so eliminate it to an hour. So maybe they're discouraged from parking in certain areas. If there's certain streets that you want to try to keep them off of, you could do something like that. Yeah, you could play with kind of the hours and restrictions, kind of how it would work in the area. It's kind of hard because, I mean, unless you fully restrict it, you really probably won't be able to fully keep them off the street.
Right.
But that's something that you probably need to think about, if that you really want to restrict them, or is it worth it to kind of still keep because you want to have the night school taking place and encouraging that activity. So
I think we were trying to encourage them to park, but it's like 2 or 3 blocks away, there's a big parking area.
Yeah.
And it's more convenient for them to park right next to the school on the neighborhood street. So that's kind of where.
So, yeah, so potentially you could have it a little stricter restrictions in that area. Maybe it is 1 hour, maybe it's something else. I mean, I can't speak for the county and how they want to implement it. But I know in our program, we do have the flexibility to kind of ratchet down those restrictions. So if we wanted to say this area, we're only going to allow a half an hour or something like that of parking. I don't think we would do that, but maybe we would go, we do have some areas that we do have at 1 hour. So you can play with the numbers a bit to kind of see what fits the best and kind of creates the behavior that you want, so.
Other questions from council members? Kathleen?
So I live near Spring and Fair Oaks and Bay Road and walk there almost every day. And nothing against Stanford, but how much parking the Stanford campus has and how everyone is not allowed on it and forced out on the street. And I can tell you, and I sympathize with the enforcement side of things because we're down sheriffs, we're down police, what would it, if a young person needed to park overnight and the car got towed. I had that happen to a young person that worked for me, and $2,500 later, this kid was out because police moved his car, and that was in Menlo Park, and they've got really strict things going on. But I think the parking thing is thinking outside the box in terms of I walk Warrington and Barron, and I am so tired of seeing fenced off empty spaces where if we just went to the business owners and said, hey, just literally door to door, can we do anything about parking? Can we move things over? I just think it's an outside the box kind of problem. If you in a perfect world, how would you solve what you might see in North Fair Oaks? Because it's crazy. It is a big RV sitting right on Spring and, but it's where they live.
Yeah,
That's
no,
all they have.
I definitely understand that. You got some very dense residential areas right next to very active commercial areas that often have large vehicles associated with those commercial businesses or industrial businesses.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand that there is a big challenge there. I think trying to define the spaces that are residential and kind of providing this kind of a permit program, so you keep some of that commercial spillover out of those areas, I think will help some. I don't think it probably is not going to be a silver bullet and solve all the issues. As you have new developments in the area, looking for opportunities where maybe they're willing to do some kind of shared parking or something kind of agreement. So we've done that in the downtown with regards to a lot of the developments that have taken place in the downtown, where we enter in shared parking agreements with the projects and they open up the parking to the public kind of evenings and weekends and stuff like that. So there may be an opportunity with some of the commercial areas as they get redeveloped or new developments come in to look at making available at least maybe in the evenings or other hours, that some of the parking for the public.
Yeah, because there's tons of cars that have not been moved in months along Bay. I watch them now. I see the dust. I see the chalk mark on the ground, and it's like, okay, that was there 2 weeks ago. That was there 2 months ago. But I feel like we got to get creative somehow.
Yeah.
I stopped at a business on Middlefield Road. I've been watching this Volkswagen, been sitting there for years now, and it's getting really dirty and it's really cute. And I asked him, I'm like, who owns that parking lot? Do you think, since these cars haven't been moved in years, maybe, because it's my cousins. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, maybe if he got rid of all those cars, did cars for cash or sold them or whatever, maybe we could rent that parking space for, oh, that's a great idea. And it's a lot, and it's probably got 20, 30 cars in it. So I think we have to get creative.
We should build a garage.
We should build a garage.
Tall garage.
But if you look at the amount of parking that Stanford has on Bay Road, and it's empty.
Well, I will say with the Stanford development, that a lot of the parking that they've built is for to accommodate future phases that are yet to be built. So that it's they pre-built the parking for buildings that have not been built yet. So that's why some of it, it looks like excessive parking on the site. They just went through, and I think they have some plans for their next phase going through right now. I think, I don't know when they're gonna break ground on that work, but I know they're moving projects through the system.
And I think on their council meeting, they talked about the fact that they had all this extra parking. Just recently, I think I saw something, read
Yes,
something about.
Yeah, they've actually looking at adjusting the amount of parking that they're looking to, not trying to minimize new additional parking that they want to build, because they feel that they have excess parking at the moment. Even when they build up the next phase. So they're looking at reducing their parking ratios a bit to accommodate that.
How often do enforcement really happen? I mean, like.
Right now, it's pretty limited, and it's really on a kind of as called basis. Prior to some of the issues that we're having, the permits areas were getting, they had people going out there at least a few times a week or so.
So would Redwood City Police or parking enforcement go to Spring Street between Fifth and Second? And would that be, or was that county?
No, they would go, they would, Spring Street in the Stambaugh Heller area. So kind of clear downtown, so they wouldn't get down the south end. The Family Acres, they would be in that Second to Fifth area. Near Broadway and those streets.
I got a question.
Yes.
Forgive my ignorance. Is this session supposed to be just to see an example of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the questions were related to Redwood City kind of moving their parking program here, so just wanted to get some clarity on.
No, we're looking at this as an example,
I saw.
you know, and understanding, you know, as Christian has so well described, just the different nuances of who wants it, how to implement it, how to pay for it, and I'm learning a lot.
Same here. No, I'm on the same page. I thought,
Make sure.
yeah, I wanted to.
And just to make a comment about Nicket's predicament about, school students parking around that area. I think that, going back to what Cassie was saying, it's got to be a multi-pronged solution where I believe that if we get bicycle lanes really interconnecting our areas, it'll be much easier for people to realize that they can actually, ride their bicycle to school if it's only going to be 7 blocks or, whatever that is. But currently, as it is, without bike lanes and dark at night, I mean, I understand how people don't want to venture. I usually don't want to venture in my bike, I like cycling. So it is a number of solutions where we need to start creating better conscience on people. Maybe talking to the school and asking them to ask their students if they can and have a bicycle. Please try it.
We will try. I can't wait for Middlefield to be done.
Yeah,
That's
the bike lane is going to be awesome.
Can the school park in the church across the street?
San Anthony's.
St. Anthony's.
They would have a lot of parking, but I think now San Anthony's has a gate, and I think they may close it during the day, some hours.
And then it becomes a legal issue.
Yeah, but it might be
Same
again
with the Garfield School and,
maybe a
Park
matter
there,
of
is that where?
No, I don't believe they can. There's liability and all that other stuff. So,
Yeah.
like I said, we're trying to direct them to the county parking space on Third, I want to say, or
Oh,
basically the big space
Oh, big.
off of Middlefield. But that's 3 blocks or 4 blocks of walking as opposed to right around the corner. So people are lazy.
Any other questions for Christian from council members?
Absolutely.
Any more?
I think I've asked enough.
I'm struggling with next steps on this. I think part of it might be to talk to the sheriff and enforce some of the things that we have on the books right now, abandoned cars, Kathleen's example of the car that's been sitting there forever, that kind of thing. And then perhaps working with the sheriff to construct a heat map and see where where we really do have a problem. Well, I think most of us could probably draw that heat map if we had a map of the community. I hesitate to do too much on this and to go too far out in the public, and please correct me if I'm wrong, without some kind of idea of whether or not we could fund a solution. I'd hate to do a survey and then tell people, well, we understand you got a problem, but there's no money to solve it. So that's something we need to work out with the sheriff's budget. I don't know where the money would come from to support public works. I don't know if Measure K allocations could be a solution. Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that a number of years ago, county was actually studying the possibility of implementing some sort of parking permits in one or two sections of North Fair Oaks, just as a test to see how it may work or how the public would react, etc. So I wonder if we can, kind of reawaken that plan and see where it went, or if it's a viable thing, because I think that we're already looking into the financial possibilities. So maybe, begin by waking that up again, talking about it, and then take it from there to see, where else we can go with it.
There is a lot of good data there. I've looked at that study. And the long story short on that, at the time, the way it was presented was we're going to charge for permits. And Public Works Board of Supervisors said, no, we're not, in which case there was no program, there was no money for it. So I think now we need to acknowledge the fact, and thank you everyone for your questions with regard to the cost of administering the program, the cost of enforcement. We're probably looking at, 3 equivalent people plus the infrastructure to support those people to make this happen. So,
Christian, have you found that revenue from issuing tickets, citations to violators has covered any cost of this program? And to what degree?
Right now, we don't, all the citation revenue basically gets put into the general fund, so it doesn't come into the program. So it's hard to say, since they do generate some revenue. I don't think right now it would be enough to cover like all the staff time and effort involved with the program. But it would definitely provide some portion of it if the county wanted to allocate it that way.
Thank you.
I think the next step in this might be to go back to Ever's suggestion, take a look at the work that was done years ago. And we've talked about a study session before with Public Works, the Sheriff's Department, sitting down and saying, okay, here's the issue. And what we can do is ask the sheriff to come to that meeting with the data, if not a heat map, at least an idea of the number of complaints that they get, and put our heads together and see if we can come up with something. We will certainly invite you back to that session, Christian.
Thank you. I'll add one thing for kind of the citation revenue. The whole point of the program is to kind of put the program out of business. So if everybody obeys the signs, then there's not going to be a whole lot of citation revenue. So of course, there's always going to be some violators here and there, but if people start complying and start changing behavior, then the citation revenue might not be there. So you can't really use that as kind of expect that revenue to some degree.
Christian, you've been a wealth of knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. Do we have any public comment on this item, by the way?
I have some thoughts, but I'll pass.
Okay. Again, Christian, thank you so much. We've learned more in the last 45 minutes on this than we have in the last year or two. So thank you for your help on
Thank you. No problem. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I'm happy to come back and discuss it anymore.
We may very well ask you to do that.
Thank you.
Report out. We have a county executives report tonight. Oh, Emma. Okay. Go ahead, Emma. County executives report.
Yeah, thank you. Just give me 1 second. Well, let me start off. We had, you guys were talking about Measure K. And on Measure K on October 17th, the Board of Supervisors met and agreed upon how they're going to do future funding of Measure K. And more importantly, it's going to be a new way of business, a new way of funding programs and services. And really we're looking at, there's 60, $1 million, and we know that there's not enough to fund every service out there. So at that October 17th Board of Supervisors meeting, the board agreed to 3 funding priorities for Measure K grants. And those would be effective July 1st, and they will be awarded in grants, and they'll be prioritized by children, families, and seniors, housing and homelessness, and emergency preparedness. This decision was based on an extensive amount of engagement that the county did with diverse communities, demographics, holding listening sessions in multiple languages throughout the county, small group discussions, and as well as community input and county-wide surveys. The board at the end provided direction on funding allocations in each of these priority areas, which will then help guide how the grant solicitation process will move forward come March, and then for grants to be awarded July of next year. So those that have been receiving Measure K grants for the last 10 years, it's a new way of and would be prioritized in these funding areas. So that is a new way. So as you guys were talking about Measure K, that's something has changed. Then on October 24th, that was earlier, this week, Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors, as many of you guys might have attended, held a study session on the sheriff's oversight. The purpose of this special board meeting was to get an update from the board and to the public on the work that the ad hoc subcommittee of the sheriff's oversight had been working on for the last year. At this study session, we heard from a number of speakers. They gave they had the expertise on this topic, as well as that included the county attorney. And then Stanford Gardner Center had done some extensive outreach, and they presented. A National Association of Civilian Oversight for Law Enforcement had also presented. A former chief of police of San Mateo and former interim police chief of Oakland, Susan Mannheimer, who is a nationally recognized work in law enforcement, also presented, as well as a number of stakeholders, including the SMC Fixin, the department, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, and the San Mateo County Organization of Sheriff's Sergeants, and finally the Sheriff Christina Corpus. Many residents gave public comments and expressed opinions on both sides. No official action was taken at that study session. However, the board did provide direction to staff with their intention to create a civilian advisory body, create a public safety and justice committee similar to a former criminal justice committee, which is part of the Board of Supervisors. The use of an inspector general would be on an as-needed basis. This civilian oversight body would not have subpoena power. The subpoena power would still lie with the Board of Supervisors. And this item will be brought forth at a future Board of Supervisors meeting later this year. So that concludes kind of our updates. I think you also heard about the acquisition of a property that we were talking about that's on Middlefield Road. And so we are currently looking at some estimates, as well as for renovations, and then really looking at the space and the need, not from a short term, but then what we plan to do with that for a long term. So it'll be a short term immediately, how do we get in there and use that? And then long term, what's those plans? So more to come as we finish getting those renovations, but as I think what you heard from previous presenters, we hope to have those renovations completed by if not before summer of next year.
So the thought now, Emma, is the old furniture store gets renovated for Job Train, the Renaissance Center, and then we figure out what we do with that building beyond that at a later date. Is that correct?
Yeah, because part of
Okay.
what the county has acquired is that entire storefront area,
Mhm.
which is the furniture store, which also included that, it's kind of like a parking area next to that. And then we also have, so we're looking at what that entire store, front would look like. As well as, what is the need of the community? And then how do we, look at that from a long-term strategy? But we definitely, for short-term, we'll definitely look and bringing our partners in there and really kind of doing that light renovation so we can get it operational.
How short-term are we considering the Economic Center to be there for? Is it 1, 2 years, or are we?
Well, currently they're funded. I think they're funded they have a 18-month, 2-year grant. And so really we'll evaluate how the success of that is. And part of the plan is for it to be sustainable, not 100, this is being funded through ARPA funds. And so those ARPA funds are going to expire as well. So it really depends on how the success of that project goes, how the outreach, and we're working very closely with them. But definitely there is plans to have them move in. They will be moving into that location, of course.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Emma? Yeah, we'll go to council member report outs. Blair. Report. Anything from you, Juan Carlos?
Yes, went to the League of Women Voters, Southern San Mateo County, did the presentation at the Casa Circulo, Middle Road here in North Oaks, regarding the prevention of firearms in San Mateo County. So that was a very interesting presentation and a good turnout in the community. That was over 11. Share that out.
Okay. Ever, anything?
Yeah, I went to, Nickett was there as well last night. There was a meeting about a water well a project to take place over at the corner of Fifth Avenue and Park. And so I thought that the information was insufficient for the public to really understand the implications of that project, which is really odd that is happening smack in the middle of houses. And I mean, it's literally surrounded by several houses. And a lot of the comments from people who attended the meeting were of surprise and also a concern about the chemicals that will be utilized, for water treatment. And also other nuisances, including noise and parking issues that bring and other assorted issues. That was a preliminary meeting. There will be more, as we heard. So we'll just see how that goes.
Is there a zoning change required for that? So it's R1 right now,
Yeah.
R3. Okay.
R1.
It's R1. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's good
Who
to
is it
know.
meant to serve? Well,
So it is interesting because it is supposed to serve the communities of Woodside, Atherton,
Basically the Bear Gulch Water District. So pretty much everywhere in North Fair Oaks, Woodside, wherever they serve water. It just adds more water to the system.
Is it water treatment or just the well?
Well, it's a well. Just a well. No treatment, no sewage. It's only potable water.
But they use some chemicals.
There's a little bit of like chloramination and some other chemical to remove the iron and manganese that's in our well water.
And that was Cal Water doing that, right? Not
Cal Water.
Okay.
So they buy it from SFPUC right now, and then they provide it to all of us.
Is it a big footprint they're trying to take up? Or
It's a house. Basically, they took over one lot and they're gonna build a house. It's not a big footprint, but
are they gonna make it look like a house from the outside or?
that was a thought.
Yes,
Don't go chicken treating there.
No.
Right.
Well, I think you have to have a fence around it, so with a gate.
Some water.
Get a water bottle.
I was thinking of just attaching my hose to their well.
There you go. Really running lines.
Exactly.
And they hadn't really heard that idea mentioned. If you caught that at the end, she's like, oh yeah, we could both house rent it. That might help.
Anything else ever?
No, that's it.
Niket?
No, like we're talking same meeting, so
Okay.
we'll definitely hear from them later, but they're gonna have some more community meetings and stuff before they get to us. So
Yeah.
they're all there. Just again, trying to get more information on the tree plan and environmental plan from the county. So at some point, I'd love to see where we're at. It's been over a year since they last told us it would be ready.
I think tree is due for our November agenda, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Still following them.
Okay, so we're still scheduled for November on the latest and greatest on the tree ordinance, so that's good.
That's it.
Okay, Kathleen?
No, I just want to give a shout out to Public Works. The last Thursday night, I down Middlefield to go to an event in downtown Redwood City, and I shouldn't call them cages. The fences were down and the lights were on in some of the businesses, and I was just so happy. So I think we want to just say thank you to Public Works. I know they still have a long way to go, but it was so nice to see those fences gone last week and things are better, so.
Okay, George, anything?
Just want to second what Kathleen said.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was driving up tonight thinking the same thing.
Should actually open my front door now.
Then it'll all get crunched again when they finally paint the lines.
I got a couple items here. First, as far as council recruitment goes, the interview committee of myself, George and Kathleen interviewed 2 candidates last week. Recommended their appointment to by the Board of Supervisors. That's going to be agendized at the November 7th board meeting. Assuming the board approves them, their first meeting will be our November session. We're still looking for a student member as well as an alternate. You may have noticed me chasing down the young people who.
Good, yeah, I was
spoke.
like, Josh, get there
Unfortunately,
first.
they live in Menlo Park in Redwood City, so. And in fact, one is a student of Juan Carlos, and he smiled at me as I walked in the room. He knew.
I had approached before.
Yeah, he knew exactly what I was doing.
But I enjoyed your dash to the door though.
You thought, yeah, that was pretty funny.
Are you gonna get them to come back and like actually be on the agenda to discuss like a
Really?
proposal as opposed to just,
Where do they go to school? Sequoia?
yeah,
They're in a program where they're still enrolled in high school, but they're going to Kenyatta, it's called Middle College.
Okay.
I gave them cards and asked them to send me the information on their program, that kind of thing.
I'd love to have an in-depth talk on that.
Be interesting. I'm trying to remember if we just mentioned the Fifth Avenue mural dedication. I know Ever was there, Blair, you were there. Anybody else go to that just a few weeks ago? I went to that. Supervisor spoke, obviously. It was a great event. And if you haven't, I'm sure everybody on the council has already seen them, but my goodness, really, really pretty. It just adds so much to that underpass. I wanted to note a couple actions taken by the Board of Supervisors at their meeting on the 17th. This is their regular Tuesday meeting, not the study session. First, the board adopted a resolution to update the zoning along Middlefield and El Camino in accordance with the plan that we approved back in March. And it actually did include the building setbacks that we requested so that any potential new construction along Middlefield would be less invasive to the residential area along Huntington. So I was pleased to see that. The board also approved the hotel to be located at 2567 El Camino. And, you know, tip of the hat to the people on this council who asked the builder to offer assistance to the people that are there now, both the current residents and the business owners there. Contractor, the developer has agreed to a 6-month notice to current tenants of the building, relocation, rent assistance for the residents, potential employment opportunities in the hotel for current residents, and has offered the restaurant currently on site to offer catering services at the hotel. Although according to my notes, the owner of that restaurant says he plans to retire. One of the current residents of the building actually spoke out in favor of the development as being a positive for the community. So it was interesting to hear when someone got up. I live in the building. I'm like, okay, here we go. But it was actually, this is a good thing. And I'd like to think that the conditions that we asked the developer to include in his proposal maybe had something to do with the way that person felt about it. So that is my report out. I believe that's all we have this evening. You know, as always, thanks to our presenters. We had some members of the public today who attended. Thanks so much to county staff, Emma, Kenny, Josh, Bo, Francesco, and Tim for their support. Our next meeting, mark your calendars. It's the 3rd Thursday because it's November. So no study session that next month. Regular meeting on Thursday, November 16th. And again, as Kenny mentioned, I believe the tree ordinance will be on the agenda, at least where it is as of right now. So we'll want to have a discussion of that. Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good question. Definitely, maybe.